On the news, 7 dead as yellow fever hits Bauchi. Nigeria-South Africa ties unshaken despite xenophobic attacks. Air Peace postpones evacuation plans for Nigerians in South Africa. Many thanks for joining us on News Now. I am Annetta Felix. Bauchi State is on red alert following a yellow fever epidemic spreading through bites of infected mosquitoes. Director General of Nigeria's Center for Disease Control, Chikwe Ihekwazu, raised alarm on the outbreak on Friday. He says a total of 7 people have died since August 29, when the first case was recorded. All 7 people, including some students of Waka College of Education in Biu, Borno State, had at various times visited the Yankari Game Reserve in Bauchi. Ihekwazu also confirmed that 4 people, including a tourist, have tested positive to the disease and are responding to medical treatment. Yellow fever is a preventable disease, and a single shot of the yellow fever vaccine protects for a lifetime. Nigeria will not sever diplomatic ties with South Africa. This is a statement of Geoffrey Oyema, Minister of Foreign Affairs. Oyema made the statement after appearing before the Senate Committee on Diaspora on Friday. He said Nigeria would consider other options apart from diplomatic ties severance to resolve the unfortunate development. The minister stressed that cutting ties with South Africa is not in the best interest of over 800,000 Nigerians legally living in the country. Oyema also said that Nigeria will take decisive action in the overall interest of the country after receiving the reports of the special envoy dispatched to South Africa.
Mr. President has dispatched a special envoy to South Africa, who will be holding discussions with the South African government at the very highest level. Yeah? And he should be back tomorrow, and that will now give the government the basis on which to take further action. In the meantime, the government is very much on top of the situation, following the situation. We know for a fact that no Nigerian life has been lost, so we're extremely concerned now to ensure that there will be adequate compensation for the property that has been lost and damaged. And we know that a private Nigerian airline is putting a plane at the disposal of those Nigerians that wish to take the opportunity to leave South Africa, but it's totally voluntary.
As a matter of duty under international law, the state has a responsibility to ensure the life and security of people under its domain, whether they are foreigners or citizens, and that is the demand that we have been assured the Nigerian government is going to make in this regard. More fundamentally is that the strategy that we have been briefed, being adopted by the Nigerian government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, is that we must have a permanent and final solution to the xenophobic attacks. It should not be an endemic issue, things that come within a space of 24 months in between. So the options that are being considered is such that will be weighty enough to ensure that both, particularly the government of South Africa, is alive to its responsibility as to rule of law.
Still on news surrounding the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, Nigeria's House of Representatives has demanded compensation for Nigerians affected in the recent xenophobic violence. Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, made the request at a press conference in Abuja on Friday. He says the Green Chamber has decided to probe the attacks and ensure necessary actions are taken. Gbajabiamila also revealed that the National Assembly will back legal funding for litigation against perpetrators of the attack.
The country in the last few days has witnessed unfortunate incidents involving our citizens in South Africa. As you are all aware, I cut my trip to Tanzania short, and I came home with the hope of reconvening the House so that we can address this very important issue. We have called that off because events have overtaken that. The government has taken very proactive steps, the same steps we would have asked for, and we're all on the same page with the president and the government. So I came to fully discuss that with Mr. President. We discussed the issues of security and what's happening in South Africa, and other national issues that require attention of both the executive and the legislative arm of government. And we had very fruitful discussions on those issues. That's why I came. The President has taken proactive steps in evacuating our citizens, recalling the High Commissioner, and other things will follow. I believe we're going to stand with Nigerians and by Nigerians. And we have issued a statement today, the leadership of the House, and it's in tandem with what the executive is doing. We stand by our citizens, and that's our priority, is to protect and the Constitution is to protect the welfare of the citizens, and that's exactly what we're doing, and that's exactly what the President is doing. We'll take further steps. I'm sure we're beyond the process of the litigation process in South Africa. I'm sure there are probably other avenues that are international that we can pursue.
Air Peace has postponed its plan to evacuate Nigerians willing to return from South Africa over the xenophobic attacks in the country. The airline on Wednesday had offered to freely repatriate Nigerians from South Africa, but in a statement released by Air Peace on Friday, Alan Oyema, chairman of Air Peace, said the evacuation suffered a setback because majority of those interested in the process have expired passports. He said the airline had already placed its Boeing 777 aircraft on standby since September 3rd and was only awaiting for further directive from the federal government. Oyema announced the new dates for evacuation as September 9th or September 10th, adding that the process of passport renewal for affected persons have commenced. President Muhammadu Buhari has commiserated with the government and citizens of Zimbabwe over the passing of former President Robert Mugabe. In a statement released by his special advisor, Buhari lauded Mugabe's struggle for the political and economic emancipation of his country. News of Mugabe's demise was announced by incumbent President Emerson Mnangagwa early on Friday. The 95-year-old died in Singapore, where he had been receiving medical treatments for months. Mugabe was the first post-independence leader of Zimbabwe, assuming power in 1980. In 2017, amid concerns that he was grooming his wife, Grace, as his successor, the former president was ousted in a military coup after 37 years in power. President Muhammadu Buhari says Nigeria will provide counterpart funding on all agreements reached with China for the provision of infrastructure in the country. The president said this when he received a special Chinese envoy at the State House Abuja on Thursday. At the meeting, President Muhammadu Buhari also thanked the Chinese President Xi Jinping for their investments in Nigeria's infrastructural development and welcomed more Chinese companies to invest in Nigeria. President Buhari also assured China of Nigeria's continued cooperation and that Nigeria will protect all Chinese interests in the country.
I think the message should be transferred to the Mr. President that himself and China contributed hugely to our success, because we campaigned on the cooperation we are having from China in terms of mitigating our extreme deficit in infrastructure, the roads, the rails, and very importantly, the Mambila project, which we are discussing on, which has been on paper in this country for more than 25 years. It's now being seriously considered by People's Republic of China. So I will also congratulate His Excellency, the President of China, for contributing towards our success in the last election, because we campaigned heavily that our infrastructure deficit is being met by the People's Republic of China. We thank you very much for that extreme contribution, which I don't think most Nigerian and Chinese realize, but it's a fact. We will struggle very much to look for the counter funding and make sure that we have honored the basic agreements by providing the counter funding. The cultural infrastructure is very, very important. It provides jobs, opportunities, and the economic sustainability of the country, which are very, very important to the political stability of the country.
The visit today to His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari by this very high-level special representative, special envoy of President Xi Jinping is quite significant in our diplomatic relations with China. So I want to say that we will continue encouraging this relationship, and the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs has been really, supporting us in the embassy to see that our relationship blossomed from strength to strength.
Gideon Okedayo, a lecturer at the Ondo State University of Science and Technology, has been abducted by unknown gunmen. He was reportedly kidnapped while traveling along Auchi Road in Edo State. Chairman, Joint Action Committee of Staff Unions in the university, Dayo Timola, confirmed Okedayo's abduction on Friday. The Labour leader called on the State Police Command and the Ondo State government to assist in rescuing the victim. Incessant cases of abductions for ransom on Nigerian roads has become a major source of concern for the government and security agencies. The Islamic movement in Nigeria says it will continue with its activities despite a court order for its proscription. The sect was in July outlawed over violent protests and destruction of public properties. Addressing journalists on Friday, Sidi Maina Sarah, a member of the Islamic movement, said the proscription order does not in any way affect the Ashura procession, a religious program of the Shiites.
Even the federal government of Nigeria that has taken what they call IML to court, as they said, the first answer that we'll give somebody in this instance is that we do not call ourselves IML. Normally, we used to call ourselves only, as you heard from his speech now, that we are calling ourselves Islamic movement and it's global, not restricted to Nigeria. And secondly, Nigerian government inside they are prescribing that they have taken to the court and the court prescribed what they call IMN. They said they didn't prescribe Shiite activities. So Ashura morning, it is a Shiite activities and doctrine which is worldwide. And also there is contradiction. He even cited it. There is contradiction in saying that they prescribe IMN, but they didn't prescribe what the Shiites are doing as their religion. And we are part and parcel of Shiite, and the Ashura morning is one of the Shiite doctrine everywhere in the world. So as constitutionally they say that they can give and protect anybody that is going to exercise his religion without any harming. So I think this is one of our religion that we have been doing for the past 40 years in this country.
We'll take a break here and we'll be right back. Do stay with us.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
You're welcome back. Let's now join Fidelia Aguncha for business stories. Hello, Fidelia.
Hi, Aneta.
So we see that the MBS has released data on Nigeria's investment flow. Please let us know what the stats are saying.
Well, the Nigerian economy recorded a decline of $3.2 billion in investment inflow from $8.48 billion in the first quarter of this year to $5.82 billion in the second quarter. Well, this was contained in the Capital Importation Report of the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS. The NBS did not give reasons for the decline in investment inflows, but analysts are of the view that the delay in appointing cabinet members may have affected investors' confidence. The NBS report said that the largest amount of capital importation by type was received through portfolio investment, which accounted for 73.76% or $4.29 billion of total capital importation. It also announced that the United Kingdom emerged as the top source of capital investment in Nigeria in the second quarter with $3.13 billion. The investment inflow report is coming days after the NBS announced a decline in Nigeria's gross domestic product for the second quarter of 2019. A drop of 0.16 basis points pushed Nigeria's GDP growth rate to 1.94%, raising concerns about the stability of the country's economy. TV360's Adeshewa Odushoga has been speaking with financial analysts to find out what exactly influenced this decline. She has more details in this next report.
Diversification of the Nigerian economy is one of the goals of President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration since assuming office in 2015. The recent gross domestic product reports depicts a struggling non-oil sector, particularly in trade and telecommunication.
We are seeing low consumption, we are seeing low purchasing power, we are seeing low disposable income. So because of low consumption, the trade sector that accounts for more than 16% of the GDP slow down. And if the trade sector is slowing down, that means the demand for goods and services has actually slowed down. That will have the direct impact on the manufacturing sector, because manufacturers cannot continue to manufacture where there's no demand for their goods. So you saw a slowdown in the manufacturing sector. Also, the absence of disposable income, or the low level of disposable income, must have also affected the real estate sector. Because as we all know, that Nigeria is a cash economy, we don't have a well-developed mortgage industry. So where the disposable income of consumers is low, they're not likely to go into building construction. So the major thing for me is that income has been eroded. We're not seeing growth in consumer spending. What we're seeing is a contraction, a slowdown in consumer spending.
Buhari had recently queried head of Nigeria's Revenue Service following unimpressive tax report. This led to a slash in government spending on basic infrastructure. Analysts say this might have contributed to GDP performance seen in the second quarter of 2019.
If the government is not spending, it has a direct impact on the GDP, on the level of economic activities. But the key challenge we have is that the government revenue, like you pointed out, is weak. But interestingly, the government revenue is also dependent on the other sectors of the economy. It is when you have a vibrant economy that you should expect that government can generate more revenue. If the economy is weak or productive activity is weak, then the government does not have the base on which to impose these taxes.
For a country like Nigeria with a high and growing population, the fragility in the growth of its GDP might bring fears of falling into recession if the trend continues.
Remember that our population is growing about 2.6, 2.7%. So if our economy is growing at 1.94%, it simply means the incidence of poverty will continue to increase because the per capita income will continue to decline. And again, the sectors that drive employment are also either in negative territory or slowing down. I mean, the manufacturing sector that contracted by 0.13%. The manufacturing sector is a major employer of labor. The trade sector, which also contracts, is a major employer of labor. The construction industry is a major employer of labor. The real estate sector is a major employer of labor. So these are sectors that actually create the jobs. So if they are in contraction mode or have gone into the negative territory, then you can also recognize why the level of employment may continue to increase.
The poor performance of the nation's GDP has been attributed to the slow growth in the non-oil sectors, which include trade and telecommunications. However, a setback in the industries may lead to a rise in unemployment, as well as increase in the nation's poverty level. Adeshawa Dushoga, TV360, Lagos.
The Central Bank of Nigeria's directive to ban forex on products that can be locally produced is still generating reactions among financial experts, with many applauding the move. Speakers at the 2019 Engineering Week of the Nigerian Society of Engineers say the ban on sale of foreign exchange to importers of food items was a welcome development. They also implored the federal government to provide good road networks, power and security so that local business would thrive.
If CBN says, okay guys, stop importing things that we can produce locally, then I think it's a plus for us. It could be painful, at the onset right now, at the beginning, but in the long run, believe you and I, it's going to help a lot of, to our balance of trade. It's going to be more favorable for us. And believe me, it means we are creating more jobs in Nigeria. Major thing federal government can do is to provide enabling environments, which will be shouting over the years. And one of it is this power, electricity, okay? Then good road network and security. If we have those three in place, every one of us can fabricate at the corner of our rooms. If you look at how economies grows in China, it's cottage. Look at the so-called Asia Tigers of 1960s to early 90s. The Taiwan, the Hong Kong, the South Korea, and all sorts of like that. They are cottage industries, okay? So if government can provide enabling environments, in terms of electricity, like I mentioned, road network, and good security system, it means in my house, I don't even need the water corporation any longer. I can do boreholes in my house, which everybody is doing right now, all right? Then I can fabricate at the corner of my room. I can export to neighboring countries, okay? It's difficult for neighbors these days, like Benin Republic and so, to be bringing product from France the way they used to in the past. Because France itself is not getting it right all over the world. They are messed up. The economy messed up everywhere. So Nigeria is the main thing, the giant of Africa. So if we can get things right in Nigeria, I tell you, we'll be the one supplying all these neighboring countries. In fact, the entire Africa.
It's going to help us to wake up to the clarion call. It's going to help us to be able to come up with ideas. It will help us to think without the box, which is what we really need to do right now. Because if we continue to import what other people are producing and we can't begin to produce our own, then we are not going to grow as a nation. We are not going to develop as a nation in terms of agricultural produce and development.
We'll now cross over to the stock market after this break. News of a decline in Nigeria's investment inflow seems to have dampened investors' confidence as the NSE is closing worse than it did on Thursday, dropping by 0.39%. Increasing sell pressure on key components across major sectors in the past 3 days has pushed the market value lower by about 300 billion naira, with the all-share index struggling to stay above the 27,000 threshold, which is right here. Well, since climaxing to 1,319 naira on Monday, the value of Nestle has been on a free fall, closing the week at 1,205 naira. Now, that's a drop of 114 naira in just 4 days. It has also been a very rough week for Dangote Cement right here, which began trading for the week at 162 naira, but currently stands at 155 naira. GlaxoSmithKline and ETI sit at the bottom of the chart, losing 9.49 and 7.14% respectively. But on the bright side, we have Dangote Flour posting its second gain for the week after declining in value for 3 consecutive days. It has also been a productive week for Zenith Bank right here, moving up to 18 naira from 17 naira and 20 cover with which it began trading for the week. UACN and Access Bank also ended the week with gains. Well, let's now move to the summary chart. Over 311 million shares worth more than 6.4 billion naira exchanged hands in 3,192 deals. And outside Nigeria, which is the foreign scene, the FTSE and Dow are closing higher as new U.S. job report reignited investors' interest. It is also a positive trend in Asia, with Nikkei surging by 0.54%. And that is from the world of business. It's back to Annette.
Thanks for that update, Fidelia. And while it's a good day for foreign investors, it's a sad one in Zimbabwe, where the country is mourning the death of 2 of its leaders. Former President Robert Mugabe, aged 95, died in the early hours of today in Singapore, where he had been receiving medical treatment since April. Shortly after the announcement of his death, National Army Chief of Staff Major General Trust Mugoba also passed away. Mugoba died at a private hospital in Harare a week after he was admitted with an undisclosed ailment. Former President Mugabe was ousted in a military coup in 2017. The same year, Mugoba quit as Zimbabwe's army chief to join African Union's standby force as chief of staff. In sports, 2-time Olympic 800-meter gold medalist Caster Semenya has joined a South African women's football team. The 28-year-old is unable to compete without taking testosterone-reducing drugs following a rule change by IAAF, athletics governing body. It means she cannot defend her 800 meters world championship title in Doha this month, though she's fighting the rule change through the courts. She's now training with Gauteng-based Women's Football Club, JVW. Semenya cannot start playing for JVW until the 2020 season, having joined outside the South African transfer window. The club is one of the top sides in the league for Gauteng province. Many thanks for watching. That's been News Now on TV360 Nigeria. Bye for now.